Welcome to Be Limitless, an educational evolution of our minds, a think tank media podcast. Hosted by Dr. Limitless, scholar, speaker, and transformational leader. Be Limitless explores the four quadrants that shape human potential: mind, body, spirit, and emotions, challenging assumptions, confronting truth, and calling listeners to unmask their authentic power. This is more than a podcast, it's an evolution. Let's get into it.
Hello, my beautiful Limitless listeners. What are we going to talk about today with Dr. Limitless? We're going to go into transaction and transformation. Transaction and transformation. But what are we talking about? We're talking about education. Have you ever really thought about what education is like? Now, this is coming from somebody that taught K through 12, taught at community college, for-profit, R1 institution, teaching institutions. I have been in education for a large part of my life, a large part. Ever since I've been 25 years old, I have been teaching in some capacity. I started at Wilson Technical Community College. Then I started teaching at Sally B. Howard Charter School, Rocky Mount Preparatory Charter School, taught at Wilson County Schools, taught at Iowa State, James Madison University, Central Michigan University, taught at University of Phoenix, and now I'm teaching at University of Tennessee. Well, what does that mean, James? Why are you telling us all this? I have seen education at so many levels, but I also have experienced education at so many levels. Just like everybody in the United States, K through 12. But then I decided to be one of these crazy people that decided to go on, get my doctorate, PhD, etc. So I have been in school majority of my life. And I have seen what a transaction looks like, and I've seen what transformation looks like, but also seen what formal education looks like and informal education. Now, what is a transaction? I'm glad you asked. Glad you asked. Think about a transaction as a short-term experience, a brief experience that is not memorable. Transformation, it is memorable. It is life-changing. It's the ability to take a fixed mindset to go to a growth mindset. Instead of seeing something linear and black and white to seeing it more in the abstract gray. Why is that important? Well, when you are focused on a transformation, it gives you the ability to have critical, creative thought. It gives you the ability to problem solve. It gives you the ability to think outside the box and not linear like a robot. As a transaction, we do things. We just keep it going. But for one, it's not memorable. And for two, it allows people to continue to stay in their silos or find their echo chambers where they constantly think the same way. And it creates the problem that we have right now in our politics, where somebody may lean all the way to the extreme of left, lean all the way to the extreme of right, and there's no middle ground. And when there's no middle ground, there's conflict. And when there's conflict, there's chaos. And there's turmoil. And there's destruction at all aspects of life. Now, one of the biggest things I focus on as an educator is mind, body, spirit, and emotions. If you can master those four quadrants, I think you can master life. But if you only focus on a transaction, how would you ever see a different person's perspective? How can you truly have a inclusive thought perspective? You can't. You're limited. But when you have the ability to transform, you're limitless. I want you to consider how we got to where we are with education, and more specifically in a hospitality environment. I think most hospitality programs are trying to be like programs like the College of Business or these other schools. But the beauty of hospitality is we're very unique. When you think about a hospitality industry or the travel industry or tourism industry, whatever you want to call it, in 2023, we accounted for $2.36 trillion in the GDP. The United States alone was considered the number one travel destination because of the attraction of people coming. And when people think about retiring, what they say, I'm gonna go on vacation. Or when they think about going on vacation or holiday, like my European brothers and sisters say, they're going somewhere to have an experience. That can be an amusement park. That could be a casino. That could be a cruise line. That could be a concert. All of the things that we do that we enjoy are hospitality and tourism related. Fun. Think about the fun aspect of it. But somehow when we go to education, because we're trying to be so transactional, we take the fun out of learning. Now I'm going to digress just a little bit. Think about babies. When they're learning how to talk, crawl, walk, think, understand all of these labels that we give them, they're having fun doing it. We're not telling them, oh, you fall. Oh, you're so silly. What are you doing? We're not putting pressure on them. When we see a baby crawl and try to stand up and they fall and they scoot, we'd be like, good job. Good job. Keep going, baby. We're encouraging them. But somewhere along the way, elementary, middle school, high school, it's no longer fun. It's all about a business transaction. I come to class, get a good grade, be on an honor roll. My parents praise me. People think I'm great because I'm smart, which is all subjective, because I can pass a test. And then I walk around with this confidence. Nobody could tell me anything. I'm going to Harvard. I'm going to Yale. And you think that you are special. And you think that you know everything. And you know what happened? You acquire a fixed mindset. You bought in the transactional nature of learning. But what happens when you go into every room, regardless of the amount of education, regardless of what it is that you know, but you always go into a room saying, what can I learn new today? What is unique about this experience that's going to enhance the person that I am, mind, body, spirit, and emotions? This person continues to grow. This person continues to see opportunity. This person does not have a fixed mindset. They have a growth mindset. This individual has a way of learning and taking that knowledge and transforming their individual being. I know some of you like, well, how do you know that, Limitless? Because I was that person. I was a person that saw race, saw stereotypes, saw the ignorance of division or discord or the divisiveness in our society. And I had to move beyond it. I did a TED talk a while back called Check Your Life, Be Limitless. And it was, what if we lived a life without social constructs? What if we connected spirit to spirit so that we could truly be limitless, so that we could connect with people on a more personal, spiritual level that goes beyond what we see with our eyes and what we're trained to think about another human being? What if? How much more beautiful will our society be? How much more can we learn about somebody that have a different background, a different experience, that come from a completely different world than what we have? We will be able to truly show empathy and be able to walk in other people's shoes. But if all we care about is a transaction, I need to get through college and make money to have my own individual life and only care about me. Well, what about the collective? What about caring for other people? What about sharing your knowledge? And sharing your knowledge and not expecting anything back, just because you know education is transformative. Anybody that know Limitless know this. I could be in a gym, I could be on a bus, I could be on a plane, I could be walking. If I feel like God or the universe has given me some knowledge to share with you to make your life better, I'm going to share it. Because education should be shared. It should not be something that we set aside and it's only for the elites or only for those that can pay for it. Once we start doing that, we start losing our society. And somewhere along the way, K through 12 and in college, we started focusing more on the business or more about the business and less about the person. And once we start focusing on the business, we only see students as consumers. We don't see them as true change agents. We will act like we do and create all of these programs to create this performative nature of what we're doing for them. But are we really doing what the students really need? Have we even really asked that question to the students? Or, like we do now in universities, the consumer? because they would tell us what it is that they really need. Yes, we have to teach concepts and topics and theories, but are we also teaching them life skills? Are we teaching them how to manage relationships, how to find productive relationships, how to manage their money, how to truly be leaders and not just be yes men of what we see a lot in our administration or what we see in our work environments? Are we truly teaching them to have a critical thought, a creative thought, and to do the right thing even when they're pressured to do the wrong thing? Because if we constantly focus on the transaction, we're only focusing on them doing what we need them to do. So then it's not about them, it's about us. But if we genuinely love education and love the transformative nature of it, we're going to focus on the student. And this got to be something that we really take seriously. Because when you look at our world, there's a lot of evil that's been talked about. We have a lot of ignorance that's been spread because people are not studying and reading and going out thinking for themselves because education has become too transactional and too formal in nature. But if we can get back to teaching them to fall in love first with learning and always have that curiosity, like Albert Einstein said. Albert Einstein said, I wasn't born with a lot of talent, but I was born passionately curious. That's what made the difference. I am curious about everything. When I hear something that really challenges me, I have to probe deeper into it. So I have to go and research it. I have to ask questions, the Socratic method. I have to probe more in depth to know what is this really saying to me and how can I share this with other people? The things I tell my students is everything I teach you, you should be able to use personally and professionally for the rest of your life. That's how it sticks. But that's also how it becomes transformative in nature. You can't just see the concept as something that you just need to pass for a test. What is a test? Let's be honest. Normally in undergrad, that's the most tests you're going to ever take. In grad school, you only take tests to get into grad school. But in order to get a master's, you either have to have a capstone project or you have to do a thesis. In order to complete your doctorates, you have to do a dissertation. None of those things have anything to do with a multiple choice test. So the highest level of education does not require multiple tests. What does that tell you about tests? They're irrelevant. And they should not be used to determine how intelligent a person is. But we do, let's be honest, we use them to weed out certain individuals. And it impacts certain demographics that's not exposed to test taking tips, that may not have an expensive or an extensive vocabulary. They may be doing things they never even seen before because of the poor education system they come from. So it puts them at a disadvantage. But at the same time, it put those that think that tests shows their true knowledge at a disadvantage. Because when they go in the real world and their boss required them to have exceptional communication skills, the ability to lead others, the ability to inspire, the ability to think critically and creatively, the ability to problem solve. But what they rely on is their test-taking skills. That's not going to be beneficial for them. So we know these answers. What are we going to do as educators, as administrators to change? And then in some institutions, we focus solely on scholarship. And that's good. But is that good for the student? And I will argue with you, yes, it is good for the student if you're able to take your scholarship and transmute it in a way that it benefits the end user, which is the student. But if you're just using it to build your credentials or your scholarship to show how great you are as a scholar and to make the university look good, that has nothing to do with the thousands of students that come to our universities every year. And sooner or later, that system is going to implode. Because when the majority, the students, start to converse and see that, what does their scholarship have to do with them teaching us things that does not even relate to the industry? And then politicians start getting involved because politicians are already attacking our education anyway, thinking that a lot of it is not even needed. And I'm not going to go that far because, yes, I do still believe in education. However, I do not believe every student should be in college. And I think that is a travesty. But once we started as No Child Left Behind, we started passing people that should not be passed. We started allowing high schools to inflate their GPAs. And a lot of kids going to college thinking that they're more prepared than what they are. And then as soon as they face adversity and they start receiving marks that they're not used to, they're ready to give up. And then you start seeing a lot of these students have mental health issues. You see how it just creates this snowball effect and this cycle? But if we're honest with ourselves, if we're honest with the students, if we're honest that we need to change the education system and it should not still look the same as it did in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, we're going to continue to have a problem. We're going to continue to have people that only read enough just to have information for the test, but they're not reading because they're questing for knowledge. They're not reading because they're curious or they have the curiosity to say, what can I do with this knowledge that I'm acquiring and how can I use it to make myself better and to share it with others to make them better? We got to really evaluate ourselves and ask, are we about a transaction or transformation? And I want you to think about it as a customer. If you go into, and I'm going to pick on McDonald's right now. If you go into McDonald's and you get a sandwich and they're rude and they just only care about the transaction. You got your sandwich, you got your fries, you got your soda, get out of here. And that's kind of the attitude. You don't feel good about it. But when you go to Chick-fil-A, you hear my pleasure. And the way they treat you, it's an experience. You go to a Michelin restaurant, it is an experience. You go to a luxury hotel, it is an experience. As hospitality educators, are we still giving students an experience? Or are we giving them a McDonald's education? I want you to think about it. Are we giving them a luxury experience or a McDonald's education? So as you ponder over the things that I said, I want you to ask yourself, are we focused on a transaction or a transformation? And then ask yourself individually, are you focused on a transaction or a transformation? Because we can only give what we have inside of us. I care about transformative learning. I care about a transformation, not the transaction. Do I acknowledge the transaction? Yes. But I want my students to receive information and knowledge that is going to transform the way they see people, the way they see their work, the way they see this environment. And while they're doing that, I do want them to get a transaction of a degree and an education so they can go out and show that, hey, I do have the credibility. But that should be the last thing. The first thing is a transformation. Go out, stay curious. Seek new ways to learn. Seek new opportunities to grow. And as you learn new things and as you grow, pay it forward. Share it with your other friends. Share it with your students. Share it with other people. Knowledge and education is something that never, ever stops. It is a lifelong process. That's what it means to have a transformation. It is long-term. A transaction is short-term. So as you go out and embark on this journey of a true education, keep the transformation in the forefront. And like I tell you every single day, my friends, make sure that this is the best day. How do you do that? You tell yourself, today is a glorious day. And for 86,400 seconds, I will give my excellence and my best until I'm laid to rest. I'm abundantly blessed and never stressed. Be better than your best and never rest on your last success. Check your life. Be limitless. Be limitless, my Be Limitless learners. Thank you.
Thanks for spending time with us on Be Limitless, an educational evolution of our minds. This podcast is part of Hospitality Nexus, a global, human-first platform bringing the hospitality ecosystem together in one place. Inside the Nexus, it's a career fair that never closes, connecting industry leaders, educators, students, employers, and partners through real presence. Watch every episode of Be Limitless inside Hospitality Nexus at hospitalitynexus.org. Continue strengthening the mind, honoring the body, grounding the spirit, and mastering emotions. Be limitless.